Baby, the Golden Stallion is here for you, and I've got something. This is actually pretty fun and totally unexpected for me, really. Last night, of course, this is being released on, this will be Wednesday, January 18th, 12,017. Woo, baby, Holocene calendar. I love it. But I did something, I got to do something fun. I got to be on the Tatiana Show, which is, of course, a show by Tatiana Moroz. It's a podcast that's on a bunch of different affiliates. Actually, a lot of affiliates that Sovereign Tech shares. One of the ones it doesn't share, though, that she's on, and probably the major one, is the Let's Talk Bitcoin network. Not that I've never been really offered, or that I hadn't been offered to be on Let's Talk Bitcoin network. The thing is I think I'd have to clean up quite a bit, the show. And I don't mean production-wise, Sovereign Tech is kind of unmatched. I hear some of the bigger podcasts and they don't even compare to what I deliver on Sovereign Tech. No pat on the back there, just calling it as it is. But yeah, I don't really get onto the Let's Talk Bitcoin network, again, just because I'm worried that the cleanup would involve what content I could talk about, what kind of language I can use, and things like this. And look, I'm just a super uncensored guy. I can't do it. And I was uncensored when I was on the Tatiana Moreau show, or on the Tatiana show. Now, what's funny about this, and what a lot of people might not know, is, in fact, it usually surprises a lot of the guests that come on. And it's only it was like a 30-minute conversation. So, and there was a guest beforehand, but I've cut out that part so you can just hear the relevant part, or quote unquote, not what the other person had to say was irrelevant. It was actually a fantastic musician. But you can hear the relevant part to Sovereign Tech here in the Patreon feed, and you're actually getting it before it gets released on Tatiana's feed. And the reason you're getting that is because, like I was going to say, is a lot of people don't know, and like I said, it surprises the guests, is that I am often the sound engineer for Tatiana's show. Tatiana is one of the clients that I work with on various things, and yeah, so when I was on, it was funny because it usually gets done through Hangouts, and so I'm logged in as Liberty.me, which is one of the major affiliates that carries Tatiana's show, and so when you hear me open it up, when you hear me start out, I'm saying how, okay, look. I know my name says Liberty.me, but I am not affiliated with Liberty.me. I am not speaking for Liberty.me. And quite frankly, I didn't say this, but quite frankly, I don't think Liberty.me would ever let me speak for them. I'm just too much of a radical, I think, for them. So not that I have any real beef with Liberty.me, but whatever. So anyway, this was a lot of fun. Just a fun conversation talking about it. We actually got pretty political at first. The Tatiana show usually tries to be, again, its major framework is the Let's Talk Bitcoin network. So she tries to talk crypto quite a bit, and we don't really get into that. At the end, I have some, she asks okay, give 5 tips for people securing their digital lives, etc. And I do get, I give those out quickly. It actually ends up being 6 tips by her question, but yeah, for a while, just talk a little politics, little Donald Trump, I bring up how, I think Zuckerberg is actually, which we talked about in episode, was it 207 or 208 of Sovereign Tech, 208, where I talked about how I definitely believe that Zuckerberg is going to be running for, if not president, at least some kind of political office. Now, you will notice that there are points where the audio, so I'm actually on location when I did this show, and the internet was a little spotty. So there was points where I start to cut out, blah 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 blah. But just so you know that's why. But the podcast rolls on and everything's fine. So again, just a quick fun 30 minutes, and I thought it'd be great to release it here. And just to speak on Tatiana a bit. I mean, Tatiana Moroz, she's just she's a good friend, so total bias there, certainly. She's a really good friend. But just a tremendous, she is just a force to be reckoned with. She really is. She is nonstop entrepreneurial action. She's a tremendous singer, tremendous artist. Admittedly, it's not exactly my style of music that I listen to, but I totally respect from one musician to another. I respect her ability. I mean, and her ability far supersedes mine. I mean, all I make is pretty much ambient music and, little things here and there. But I mean, she is the real fucking deal. Just original songs. What she's doing with Tatiana Coin, I think, is actually very interesting. This idea, and it's relevant to what we talked about in episode 207, where we had the clip from David Bowie, where David Bowie was talking about how the artist and the audience are so intermingled, and that's really happening. And she is totally blazing the path. And we talk about this a little bit. I mean, or blazing the trail, I guess, path, trail, whatever. She's totally blazing the trail to bring what David Bowie was talking about to fruition. I mean, she really is. She's knocking it out of the park with what she's doing, and I'm helping out quite a bit with that. And it's a real honor to be a part of that, actually. And I really should have talked about it a bit during episode 207, or 208. But I was more concerned with what Bowie, of course, was saying. Or not concerned, but concentrating on what Bowie was saying about, fractured audiences and all that, and how I think that that's a great and wonderful thing, that you want division. You do not want unity in anything that you're doing. So, anyway, this is just, it was a fun conversation. It was really spur of the moment. What actually happened was, just to give you a little inside baseball, is a guest was not able to show, that was supposed to be on for the show. And so she asked me, since I was sound engineering the show, hey, do you want to be on for the second half? And I was like, yeah, sure, what the hell? If anything, I might bring a little more audience, say when it airs on the Let's Talk Bitcoin network. So a lot of fun. Anyway, I won't take up any more of your time as far as this goes, and you can just roll right into the episode, and I'll let the music ride it right out. And absolute thanks to Tatiana Moroz for having me on. Lots of fun. I mean, she can be such a great conversationalist, so I really enjoyed it. Pardon the points where the audio starts to cut out. That was totally on me. That was my fault. So anyway, there you go. Enough of that. You are still going to get a Sovereign Tech Wednesday Q&A today, and you might end up with a whole lot more as well. So got a lot of good stuff planned for this week. Some of it is content that actually other patrons have sent in to me that I will be going over, and I'm really honored by that, to have quote unquote boots on the ground of people reporting at various events and everything, and then getting back with me. So a lot to get into this week, and of course there'll be a new Sex and Science Hour, which I can tell you this is going to be a very special one if everything goes according to plan. And then of course there will be a great Sovereign Tech out this week, or well, I like to think it'll be a great Sovereign Tech every week, but there will be Sovereign Tech out this Saturday as always. So anyway, there it is. I'll let like I said, we'll switch over to the Tatiana show right now, guest starring me, moi, and I'll see you on the other side.
And the final new person I want to kind of give props to during the Tatiana show is Sovereign Tech. And Brian has been helping me out and making my life much better. And he's also a really good friend. I'm a big fan of him and Stephanie's show, Sex and Science Hour, so you guys can go and check that out. But Sovereign Tech is kind of his main gig. And Brian and I have been talking a lot about the different hacking stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about security and just overall have a fun little chat. So Brian, this is your first time on the show. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, it's great to be with you. Can you hear me okay? Just making sure.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay,
You're
cool.
Usually the one running the sound, and I'm helping you out with this today.
Exactly, yeah. So, and I just want to make real clear, like you'll see if you're watching the video, it says liberty.me for my name. I do not represent liberty.me whatsoever. But I happen to be the engineer of your show often enough, just so
Exactly.
people are aware. This is the second time. The first time.
Oh, wait, you were on with the Steam It shit show.
Did I lose you?
No, but we're not having
yeah.
I will say, but yes, you were on the show with the Steam It confrontation episode. That wasn't really very confrontational. It was very respectful. I wanted to have something sort of, a little Geraldo, but it was just pretty peaceful and calm.
Well, I was being a really nice guy, which is kind of unusual for me, but that's how it ended up, and that's fine. So, but it's good to be here now. I can't wait to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Great. So there's been a lot of hacking going on in the Bitcoin space. But wait, time out. Before that, what do you think about Chelsea getting out? You're psyched? What do you think this means anything? What are the implications in your view?
I don't really processing the news. I mean, of course, I'm glad. I hate government action in any way, shape, or form, but I'm always happy for people to be out of prison, and so I'll take that over anything. And yeah, I don't really have any theories yet or predictions as to why exactly this happened. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just to at some point, make Obama's career almost look maybe anti-war or nice, because it really has been neither. I mean, that's really the best guess I have right this second.
Yeah, I think it's a PR move. I think that, he's trying to salvage whatever is left of his respect. It's amazing to me how many people still think that he's this peace president. Meanwhile, he bombed more countries than Bush. I didn't think it could get any worse than Bush. And Obama beat him. Way to go. Kill more people.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally
more people, but he's bombed more people.
Well, I'm not sure either. Yeah, he's definitely dropped more bombs. I mean, and I was in the military during the Bush administration, and I can at least say then we weren't dropping a bomb a day, but it seems the past 8 years, maybe that's been true, or at least some of that time frame.
Yeah, I think it's been a little insane. Are you, I know you do not like any kind of government. Are you at all enthusiastic about Trump? Is there anything redeeming about the incoming president?
No.
Okay, that's a no. Firm no.
Yeah. Yeah, not at all. I mean, there's really nobody that could get in there that would excite me, admittedly. I feel that what worries me more, I mean, sometimes the president is just one person, but I think sometimes who gets in there can speak a lot more about the culture of the country, of the United States, more so than anything else. And that's where I get concerned, is that the kind of culture that allows for, I mean, really that allows for anybody is terrifying, and certainly I'll agree for that, but that allows for Trump to ignore so much about Trump and, to just be on board with so many of the things that he said. And granted, he's been contradicting himself for years on Twitter, and certainly he's doing that even more so now. That aspect of it worries me more than even the person that's in the office. So,
well, do you think that people were? I mean, arguably, he was going up against the worst human on earth. So, I mean, it's not like people chose him over Rand Paul, except for, let's say Rand Paul. Rand Paul would have been a great president, if we have to have one, comparatively, for sure. So, it's not like he was running against some wonderful person. I don't know if people were voting for him because they thought he was so fantastic. Some people might have. I don't know. What do you think? You don't think that maybe some people were just fed up with the status quo?
I could see that people would be fed up with that, but then, well,
like what
really,
choice do they have?
I guess,
it's
actually maybe the more important statistic that comes out of this whole situation is that, what was it, something like 46% of Americans didn't vote at all. And that's actually good news to me. Like, I like that, the fact that they didn't even bother, because there's maybe, I mean, I don't know what the reasons are behind that, but maybe if the reasons are anything remotely like, look, we're not getting represented at all, so screw all this, I'm totally on board for that. So at the same time, as much as I'm complaining about the culture that say, it's like, oh, look, we got to have something other than Hillary in, at the same time, there's that culture that clearly just didn't participate. And I love a non-compliant society. I mean, I think that's just like the best thing. So there, even in all that, there is kind of, I guess, a hopeful message, all the same.
What do you think about, okay, so I know that you think that voting is immoral, and I was debating about whether or not I should vote for a while, and of course, I was out of the country, so it was convenient that I couldn't, and I probably wouldn't have had I been here, because I morally oppose the rulers overall. But the problem with people not voting is that it doesn't get attributed to anything other than laziness. So I don't think that even if 80% of the people didn't show up, it's not like the government would be like, well, it looks like this voting thing isn't working. Let's just not do this anymore. So what do you think of that? I mean, how do you resolve that? Or do you don't take it that far because you're not responsible for everybody?
No. Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, I think this comes up a lot when it comes to the topic of voting, is that Well, government goes on. Like whether you participate or not, whether you vote or not, the government's just going to continue to steamroll. I actually disagree with that kind of logic, just because, it's not politics and voting in particular is not some kind of zero-sum game. Instead of paying attention to politics, or instead of voting and getting involved or running for office or something, is you could be making a business. You could be doing entrepreneurial efforts. You know that as well as anybody, Tatiana. You're one of the most entrepreneurial people I've ever met, and so people can put their energy in that. It's not like, well, and the thing is that putting your energy in that actually circumvents the government itself. In a very real sense, choosing to do business instead of choosing to do politics, that's the real alternative, and that's something that you can do. I have a saying, it's not my own, but one that I like to use a lot, which is business over bullets. Because doing business, stops the bullets, and so that's really it. Is that I think people think, well, look, if you don't vote. No, if you don't vote, you can spend more time, again, doing business, entrepreneurial pursuits, trade, interactions, social interactions with everyday people, and those are far more meaningful to everybody's life as to where really, Trump, I know you're asking Javi earlier, how do you think, is Trump this rogue candidate? Is he going to be able to change things or whatever? Personally, even if he, and Javi brought up, I think astutely, he brought up that, well, maybe, one way or another, he's going to have to do what somebody wants him to do, they, them, those, whatever the powers that be. And I kind of agree with him, is that even if he got in there by the people, and quote unquote, supposedly for the people, we've had presidents in the past in the United States that seem to be pretty anti-government or anti-bank or something like this. And both of them met a bullet. One died, one did not. And if, anybody that thinks that they can really kind of stop the plan politically are going to, and I don't want them to, because I'm a pacifist pretty much. Like they're going to meet some kind of ignoble end or action. So I really don't buy into the idea that Trump can actually really change anything in the first place.
Well, that's where I think maybe his abrasive, let's put it, personality might actually come in handy. It could go total Hitler, right? But it could be sort of like you can't just be Mr. Ron Paul and I'm so friendly. Maybe you got to be a jerk in order to get some stuff done. I don't know. I feel like I'm holding on to of a dream, but I'm not letting go. And we'll see. America might be screwed, but I don't know. I think it's cool that people got excited, and I think that the next couple rounds, they're going to continue to be less invested in the political solution. And on my point, I don't really do politics anymore, because why? It's stupid. It's totally worthless. And that's why I think Bitcoin's so cool, because when I went to my first real Bitcoin conference, it was the same thing like a Ron Paul event, all different kinds of people. But we didn't have to stand outside. We didn't have to hold a sign. We didn't have to say, can I have a little crumb from the table? No, we were like, bitch, I'm making my own table, and I think, I'm sorry to cuss on the show, but yeah, I think that's kind of the direction that Bitcoin took me into. And that's why I think, for artists, to make artist coins like Tatiana coin and potentially use that kind of model for other kinds of businesses. I think the more empowerment that we can give to people and not even deal with the political stuff. They'll learn economics real quick once they're trying to do a business instead of just getting their little goodies. Sure. So either way, it's going to be very, very entertaining. We've got some very nice tweets coming out to keep us alive, and I'm pretty sickened by the media, but I like them going down too. So as far as I'm concerned, everything's crumbling, and we're just building Bitcoin stuff, and
I'll tell you,
technology's taking over.
Sure, I'll tell you, not to, if I could make things worse, I actually have a prediction for 2020. And that is, I talked about this on my show, Sovereign Tech.
You just cut out. This is fascinating. Brian, I can't hear you. You just cut out, and I need to know what you're going to say. Brian, okay. You just totally cut out. Sorry.
Can you hear me now? Do I sound okay?
Now you sound okay, yeah. Can you say that again? Because it was like It was like the end of an
Oh, it cut
episode,
out.
and all of a sudden your cable gets pulled. So what's
Oh
your
man, it's the
controversial thing?
worst. Is that for 2020 is that Mark Zuckerberg is going to run for president. And like, there's a lot of evidence for this. I talked about it on my show, Sovereign Tech, this past week, and that is really terrifying because you're talking about technology can do. Technology is just a tool. It can either set us free, or honestly, it can be used to enslave, or as a tyrannical system. And I'm really afraid of when a guy. I mean, like one of the few things that's a curse and a blessing at the same time is that Trump obviously doesn't know shit about. He's pretty good at Twitter, but so what? So's a whole bunch of people. But I'm a little more concerned when the potential president is a guy that runs the largest spy network on the planet, that being Facebook, and then he's also in charge of the largest military on the planet. And so 2020, things are bad now, but things can get a whole hell of a lot worse. And I think if Zuckerberg does become president, that is that whole lot worse. But with people being so fed up with Trump, maybe they'd want somebody like that. They just don't know what they're getting.
That is so utterly terrifying. I didn't think that it could get much scarier. I feel like my whole entire adult life, it just gets more and more scary, but maybe it was getting scary for the past, forever. I don't know. I mean, the presidents are getting worse and worse. I think people were all excited about Reagan. I don't care about Reagan. I mean, he's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know anything about Reagan. It was before my time, but yeah, I mean, Clinton was a mess. Bush was even worse. Bush before him was terrifying. I mean, there's a lot of scary stuff out there. I really hope that we don't get Zuckerberg. Do you think that Facebook will become less relevant? Because maybe there could be solutions in that regard. Because people are pretty fed up with the censorship there.
Well, maybe. I mean, there's the chance. I mean, I'm a little concerned that, after the Snowden revelations, there's a lot of things that change for certain aspects of the world, for certain groups within the world. But then at the same time, on a large scale, really nobody changed anything that they did. It's not until really Trump gets in office that suddenly a lot of people are using great apps like Signal, and a bunch of other different types of encryption and security tools and all that. So I'm a little worried that, certainly like 10 years ago, nobody would have ever thought, could Facebook go away? Sure. But then Facebook's not just Facebook anymore. Facebook's Instagram. Facebook is a whole bunch of things. So I don't know. Even if people got fed up with Facebook, it has a lot of tendrils in a lot of different areas.
So one of the things that I'm doing, you've been helping me with this Tatiana coin, and I don't mean to be plugging it, but what we found as a natural result, one of the main reasons why I did Tatiana Coin was, funding and fans, right? How do you make your music without getting a handout from the corporations that will give you a bad deal and tell you what to say? And then how do you connect with your fans? Because, I was on MySpace and Friendster, and then I went over to Facebook. And now when I want to reach my Facebook audience, I have to pay. So basically with Tatiana Coin, it will allow my fans to, if they hold Tatiana Coin, to message with me directly and message to one another, which I think is almost like an inverted version of Facebook. And what I'd love to see is people interacting in that way, where they actually are controlled through these tokens versus having another platform. Granted, Tokenly, who's providing that interface, is a platform, but you could take your token holders and go to a competitor should one arise. Right. And that ownership of that relationship, I think, is pretty critical going forward, because even if Facebook goes away, we don't want just another one to kind of fall in its place. So some more people can spy on us and look at what we're doing and talking about all the time. Tell us what fake news is and whatnot. Do you think that there's hope in social media solutions with cryptocurrency or any other technologies? About all sorts of tech stuff from Sovereign Tech. So where do you see that going? Or you think people are still going to be like grandma using Facebook?
Yeah, I could see, I love that idea. Sure, I love the idea of Tatiana Coin, all the way. And as far as getting, I've tried to push for this for a while. Not that I have a gigantic audience or anything. But trying to get people away from sort of these larger venues, like online venues like Facebook or Twitter or something like that, I've felt like for at least the past few years has been kind of fruitless. And I'm not sure what the magic ticket is like to get people away from that. Is it because they can find where if there's the mixture of content and monetary value of some kind of like a token system,
like a Steam It?
yeah, something, yeah, but something with better economics behind it. Something where what is it? Yours.network. That's kind of the Bitcoin version of sort of a Steam It, but maybe a little better implemented. Something like that maybe get people away from Facebook and from a lot of these other things. But the key thing is that whatever the next system is, it needs to be open source to where people can actually, if they want to, they can get away. They can genuinely get away from whatever it is that, in case, like Facebook is doing it all the time. And, 20, 30 years ago, it was AOL, where they would just get really tyrannical with the controls they had over content creators. Now, granted, content creators don't have to use those platforms, but regardless, bad business practices and being anti-consumer is being anti-consumer. So I think that, it requires something kind of like Tatiana Coin. It requires something like a yours.network or something like that, to where people, I think, will finally see the added value and the good reason to completely leave, Facebook and all of the rest of them. Because, these services can be left behind, but it's really going to take something special.
Well, maybe, this is something I've always thought that music could lead people into crypto, because God knows the technical explanation isn't exactly a hot ticket. But, I guess that's one of the problems with all these social networks when they're trying to build alternatives, is how do you get people to actually use it? So maybe by having that artist incentive, if Kanye actually did make a coin, people could message with him and get all this stuff in one place in an easy way, but then also be able to interact with other artists. It almost speaks to the Napster model. I saw this great movie. Alex Winter did a great movie about Ross with Deep Web, but he also made a movie before that called Downloaded, and it's really, really good. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but y'all should watch it. And one of the things that really struck me, because I wasn't a person that knew how to even use Napster, so I wasn't messing around with it, but one of the things that struck me was that Napster could be basically, it wasn't just about the free music. It was about the experience with your fans. And when Token Lee's building out this token.fm thing, where basically, because we're going to have album tokens, so right now, if you want to buy a Tatiana album on iTunes, you can't send it to Stephanie because iTunes is actually just licensing that music to you. Well, if you bought a Tatiana Coin album token from me, you could borrow it, you could buy it, and then you could lend it to Stephanie, and you're not violating copyright. And what we're doing is we're building this sort of incentive process where you as a fan, by sharing the music, are getting incentivized through, some sort of small percentage or some sort of whatever, and the artist is also getting a little something. So it kind of combines certain aspects of Spotify and Facebook and makes them function. Now, all these features aren't built out, but that's the way I see it kind of coming together, because then you could say, well, I take Brian token to get Adam token to get Tatiana coin or whatever, and then we could kind of all make our own little tribes and grow it organically, because to that tribe, that's really all that matters. You don't really care about 5 million other people using it. You just want to connect with those people that you like and maybe some of their friends and stuff like that. So I think it sounds very ambitious to be saying in a way that, I just want to, replace the need for Spotify and Facebook. But I don't think that people are satisfied with those services, and I don't see why not. I think that the tech is going to be, interesting to see how we can engage with people. And if it's not with our stuff, I just want somebody to do something to get me the hell off of Facebook. Somebody said to me the other day, they're like, oh, why don't you get off of here? I'm like, because I'm an artist. I can't get off of Facebook. I might as well die. Actually, I'd probably make more money that way. So, it'll be interesting to see what plays out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And people have actually predicted that the internet would go in this direction. In fact, there's a video that had been going around the internet just recently by the late great David Bowie from 1999, where he was saying pretty much exactly what you were just saying, where you're going to have these niche groups on the internet where the music is going to meet the fan, and they're going to be the symbiotic relationship. And I think the reason that it didn't exactly happen yet was because that symbiotic relationship wasn't possible until you ended up with Bitcoin and token systems and things like this, to where there was real incentive for that symbiotic relationship between audience and artist. And I mean, it's an exciting time. I think there's potential flaws with it, not flaws per se, but that, one thing that I don't think that there's like a really great answer for, and I'm kind of going to be a Debbie Downer here, I guess, that, 30, 40 years ago, you could just be a drummer and you could make millions a year, just on being a drummer, because the music industry had such a centralized control of everything. They controlled the flow of money into the into the entire industry, the whole thing. With a decentralized kind of art system, which is really what we're ending up with, thanks to the web and then Bitcoin and tokens, things like this. I don't think any artist is ever going to achieve those heights of wealth anymore. I think you can live very nicely. You consider like a Lindsey Sterling or something like that. But I don't think like that whole idea of, say, like I don't know, whatever huge band, U2 or something. Like I think the days of those kind of artists are just gone, where it's like everybody on the planet Earth knows who they are and all that. But at the same time, like I think you create a longer loyalty when it's more of a niche thing, where I think it may benefit. I mean, there's so many bands like me, I'm like an 80s metalhead, and I know I listen to albums that nobody else is listening to anymore, new albums by these bands from way back then. And, because nobody's buying their albums or even going to their concerts anymore, these guys are starving. But I think if it's more of the symbiotic relationship where there's this community and interaction built around tokens and the art and all that, maybe that could actually sustain the artist really in the long term greater than the music industry ever did. But I mean, all that's kind of theory, and we live in interesting times.
Well, the problem with the Uber superstars is that they're results of the kingmakers, right? Yep. It's not necessarily because they were the best. It was because they had the best, backroom deal or whatever. And that's what I find so revolting about the music industry these days. And for a while now, when Britney Spears came out, to me, that was the death of the music industry, because she was utterly porno pop. And don't get me wrong, I like to dance to some good old, slutty music and all. But when everything became that, or some sort of a wannabe soulful thing that wasn't really soulful, I mean, I feel like music has really been hijacked from people. And as an artist, sure, do I want to be really rich? Of course I do. Everybody wants to be really rich. But I would certainly sacrifice some of my riches, which is sort of anti-capitalist of me, but in order to have a more even playing field so artists can actually all make a decent living.
So that they have control. I agree with you. I think that's a great attitude to have.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes with the idea that if you're anything but a leftist in Hollywood, you're ostracized. It's ridiculous. Music should be free, whatever your position is. We're coming up on the hour, and we didn't talk at all about security, which I'm secretly glad about. But before we go, do you want to give people your top 5 security tips? I think that might be a little bit more digestible. What do you think? Go for it.
Sure. Absolutely. So number 1 is get away from Gmail if you can, because Gmail is such a hot target. People just go after it, or make a crazy Gmail. If you have to use Gmail, make a crazy ass email address, like nothing even remotely like your name. So that's my first recommendation. My second one is use Signal. The Signal app, it's in the App Store, it's in the Google Play Store. This is the creme de la creme of encryption, and I recommend using that. The third tip would be have as few accounts as possible. And what I mean by that is that, like, say if you use a Windows 10 computer, okay, go ahead and use, honestly, and I know people think this sound nuts, go ahead and use like a lot of Microsoft services, because that way you're not making a bunch of different accounts, like a Dropbox account or even a Google account or whatever you end up using accounts for. Like, have as few accounts as possible, because each account you have is another attack vector that somebody can get into your life. Number 4 would be, do not buy anything within the Internet of Things ecosystem. No IoT whatsoever. Stay the fuck away. Sorry, just stay the hell away from that, because that is, each little device that turns your home into a smart home is exploit waiting to happen, and these companies are terrible about security, about updating things. So stay away from that. And the 5th one, I guess, would be to use an ad blocker at all times, and do not feel like you using an ad blocker and going to some news website and you're blocking their ads and they're not getting paid is in any way unethical, because it's not. Your job as a net citizen, I don't really like all those terms, but for the sake of the podcast, your job is to secure your own stuff, is for you to be secure. Let the news website figure out just how exactly they're going to get paid. That's their job. Your job is to make sure, because the more secure everybody is on the internet, it's a network effect. Everybody gets more secure because you're doing your best practices. So ad block everything. Don't even think twice about it. I get tired of the ethics question around that. There is no ethics. The only ethics is you stay secure. That's, your goal in life is to be happy, and security is part of it.
All right. What's the ad blocker?
So there's 5.
Like? Yeah, no, those are, you had those ready to go. I like them. They were easy to do. They made me less fearful of security stuff. What is the name of the ad blocker that you like? uBlock or something, Origin?
Yeah, uBlock Origin. It's available for Firefox, Microsoft Edge, and Chrome. It is absolutely the best.
It's on everything.
Okay. Oh, good.
One
All right.
last thing. So people are getting hacked in Bitcoin a lot lately, and a lot of that is because of the SMS two-factor authentication. Do you have a solution for that? What should people do? Really quickly to that one.
Yeah, sure. So that would have been, I guess, number 6. There's 2 options. One is use an Yeah, this is the bonus round. Use one of two things. If you have to use SMS, if you don't have any other options, it's better than not having it. But if you can, use either Authy or the Google Authenticator app. Either of those are really, there's problems with Authy, but either of those are good choices. Those are kind of the top 2 out there. The second option really that you could do is there's a device called YubiKey. It's YUBI Key. And you can buy these on Amazon. They're like $30 to $50 depending on what they are. And it's just a little USB drive or an NFC device that you can plug into your computer, and it works as your second factor authenticator. Instead of using SMS as your second factor authenticator. You can effectively, like, using a password manager like LastPass is a great thing to do. That's definitely a step you want to get involved in. You can actually kind of triple lock, like, your LastPass account if you use a YubiKey, because your LastPass won't open at all. Even if somebody had all your LastPass information, if they didn't have that little hardware device called a YubiKey, they can't do anything about it. So those are my recommendations: is either use an authenticator app, not SMS, or grab a YubiKey. So there you go.
What if you lose your YubiKey?
There are ways to kind of work around that, but a YubiKey is designed to be left on your keychain. So treat it as important as the key to your house, which hopefully nobody ever loses. And if you do, well,
Have you met half of the drunken population of this country? People lose their keys, but yes, okay. Can't be perfect.
Well, that's a whole other conversation. So as far as what
we gotta get into the nitty gritty of PGP and stuff soon, because
Sure.
I want my listeners to be secure. I want new people to get into Bitcoin. I want them to lose their coins.
Yeah.
But we'll have to do that another day. Brian Sovereign, you're such a wonderful guest. I really enjoy talking to you. I enjoy working with you as well, but all sorts of good things about you. So plug yourself.
Thanks so much.
Where can people find you? What's the story? How can people find out more?
Sure. So the best place to go is sovereigntech.com, and that's SOVRYN tech.com. It actually takes you to my Patreon page, which I have a lot of lovely patrons that help make Sovereign Tech go round and round. But if you go there, all my episodes are there, all the relevant links, and anything that I'm involved in is there. Or you can go to, I have one other website, zog.ninja. And there you can find all my games and even my albums. You can find all kinds of things there to have a good time with. So either of those sites will get you hooked up with me. And on Twitter, @SovereignTech.
Very cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening. These sponsors are Anarchapulco. Use Tatiana to get 10% off. TheBitcoinCPA.com, CryptoCompare.com, FreeRoss.org, Sovereign Tech, and Third Key Solutions. So please show some love to my peeps. Josh, if you're at home and you're listening, we miss you. Go to Vaultoro.com because, you know, Bitcoin isn't enough. You want Bitcoin, gold, all in one place. Go to Vaultoro.com. If you would like to be advised on your PR, marketing, advertising strategy in the crypto space, please go to my company, CryptoMediaHub.com. And I'm going to be doing a huge crowdfunding campaign starting on February 9th. So people, go to TatianaRose.com. There'll be a landing page up in the next couple days. We've got a really great video showing you what it's all about. So if you love me and my show, please give me all your money. No, I'm just kidding. All right. No, I'm not. Seriously, give me all your money. Bye, everybody. Peace out.
You just experienced Sovereign Tech. Go to sovereigntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovereign Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.